Welcome back to Know Your Fur, where we find a random furry from the internet and get to know a little bit more about them. Though the faces and names will change, the one thing that'll always stay the same is meeting new people and making friends along the way. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Know Your Fur. I'm your host, Pip, and we have this adorable little bean with us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Captain Fish. Purposely misspelled Captain Fish. I'm about 30 years old, getting there. I enjoy reading, playing video games, teasing people, being teased by people. I'm probably one of the only straight furries I know. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's nice to meet you, Captain Fish. I hope you're having a lovely day. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what your persona species is?
Well, obviously, it's an Umbreon, although I think the name for copyright reasons is a Spectrum.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Nintendo, and they're suing me. Yeah. But yeah, it's a Umbreon. They're uranium orange and arsenic green is their color scheme. I still haven't just figured out what color of turquoise I want.
Very nice. So what made you go with this shiny variant? Like what was the story behind it?
So, believe it or not, when I actually up until 3 years ago or so, I didn't have a solid persona. I kept switching back and forth between a ton of different things. For a while, I was a changeling for My Little Pony. Then at another point, I was a pangolin, and a fox, and a bunch of other things. I almost settled on amp waves when I first got into VR chat, though.
Ooh.
Until a friend of mine introduced me to this base model. And I just started playing around with it, realizing, this feels right. Of course, back then, my player model was taller than you.
Yeah, that's fair. Tiny little pipsqueak.
Yeah, that is... Well, I blame LJ.
I'll give you that. So why... But... Why Captain Fish?
So there is a long story behind that. For the longest time, I went by a different name. I had that name since, I think, 5th grade, maybe? That was decades ago. And I'd stuck with it until I started getting into online matches in TF2 and playing against actual people. And whenever they wanted to call out to me, well, they completely misread my name, which I also misspelled that name, by the way. But they kept calling out to me. It's like, okay, my name is not Colgate. I am not fucking toothpaste. And eventually I just got so sick of it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go come up with a different name. Now just think. And I thought, and I thought, and I thought. And I read a lot of fan fiction. A fuck ton of fan fiction. I've read probably the entire... Well, at one point, I had read the entire Naruto archive on fanfiction.net.
Oh, geez.
Not even kidding about that. That is no longer the case because it has been a couple years since I went through that, but I once read the entire archive. Anyways, one of those stories happened to be a Naruto Mega Man Battle Network crossover. Which, Mega Man Battle Network, awesome game series, was one of my favorites growing up. Well, in this story, the author came up with a couple of characters who were ridiculously themed superheroes, usually named around foods. And one of them was a fish market guy named Captain Fish.
Okay.
They were a literal one-off character invented solely for that story, and when I'm trying to come up with a new name, that one just stuck in my hands like, you know what? F it, let's do it.
Hey,
and it has stuck around for ever since, except for one small difference. I misspelled Captain.
yeah, you're Caption Fish.
I only found out that that's how it's pronounced thanks to the TTS in Discord.
Beautiful.
Because
Beautiful.
somebody added me with TTS and it went Captian Fish. And it's like, hold on, what? Did I misspell something again? How long is this? Oh no, from the very first time. Oh well.
It's okay. There's only so much knowledge you can cram into that tiny little brain of yours.
And I filled a good 70% of it with fanfiction.
Yeah.
And video games.
Video games and fan fiction about video games.
And anime, and books, and cartoons, and movies. I read too much fanfiction, I think.
All of it. Yeah, probably. Now,
Yep.
you're an Umbreon. I have a feeling I know how you found this species, but how did you find it, and what made you be like, you know what? No, this is mine specifically.
I mean, I kind of went over that with how I found the species, or like the avatar at least.
Well, you found the avatar, but how
It was
did you
introduced to
find
me
the
by a
Umbreon?
first time seeing an Umbreon was in. When did I first see an Umbreon? I think it might have been on E6 I first saw an Umbreon, but that wasn't the first time I saw a Pokemon. I've been playing since Fire Red came out. But I never saw a crap ton of the species.
All right. I'm just kind of awestruck that you had never seen an Umbreon until you found E6.
I mean, I might have seen it in something else, but I can't really think of it unless like you fight it in one of the games. Do they appear in Mystery Dungeon as something you can fight?
Did you
As a gym leader's partner Pokemon?
Did you play any of the Pokemon games on GameCube?
I never had access to a GameCube. My first game system was a PS1, and then I went straight to Xbox and never got a different console again. It was just PS1. Xbox, 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 Xbox. I melted so many Xbox 360s.
I melted 3 of them, found out how to fix them properly, fix it, and then I didn't go through another one until I sold it.
I fully melted one using Skyrim.
And then I just
and then a different one
had
using
this
Rock
bad
Band.
habit of buying, using, selling, and then buying again, using, and then selling. Yeah, I had a problem. Yeah.
These things happen.
You explaining how you found the Spectrum Umbreon makes me wonder, how did you find the furry fandom? And what made you join?
So, I was tangentially aware of the furry fandom since I was like 8, but it never really registered with me. In fact, I didn't really understand what furry was until I was like 14, 15. But I'm pretty sure my quote-unquote furry awakening was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. That's also coincidentally one of the only ads to have ever worked on me properly. Just, what if you woke up one day and you were a Pokemon? That's an option? Holy shit. It was an experience, just like, instead of being the Pokemon trainer or the person controlling things, it's like, oh, I am this thing. This is me. Why does this feel different? And that eventually led me to Googling certain characters from games, finding certain sites, and yeah, it spiraled from there.
That is fair. That is valid, and that is fair. So you joined the furry fandom because of sites.
I guess, yeah. I think the first furry site I ever went to was uh and then later for Affinity. Unless you count DeviantArt, but I don't quite count that.
I don't count DeviantArt because that is a large generalization platform for art, kind of like Tumblr.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you to
Tumblr.
know.
My favorite dumpster fire.
I want you to know that I'm supposed to be impartial during these interviews, but I'm judging you harshly.
Judge
Anyway.
all you want.
Moving on. How long would you say you've been a furry?
Like my first primary introduction where I didn't quite realize it was probably when I was 12 or 13. Unofficially, since 14, since that was when I like figured out, oh, I like this stuff, but I'm not calling myself that. And then officially like saying, okay, I am probably I was at early 20s when I finally admitted.
So, around a decade?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Alrighty, well, thank you for that. Would you say that your VR chat model is indicative of your persona?
I sure hope so. Because this is the only one I put any real time and effort into.
That is fair. Do you have any art of your persona?
I've never commissioned any, but people have made me a ton. I'm very happy about this, but holy people. I'm not asking, why are you drawing me such amazing things?
Oh, would you mind sending me some of it so I can put it up for the audience to see?
Yep.
Now, the question that I want to know, Mr. Caption Fish, do you have a fursuit?
I do not. For a variety of reasons.
If you could have a fursuit, would you accept it? And what would its styling be?
I would accept it, and the hell do you mean by styling?
Well, you've got your kimono, you've got your dancers, you've got your digigrade, plantigrade, you've got long faux fur, you've got short fur, you've got all kinds of stuff.
I'm just finding out I know jack shit about fursuits. I don't know what the fuck any of that meant. Except for digigrade and plantigrade. That's the only thing I knew what that meant.
Okay. So, if you could have a fursuit, would it be plantigrade or digigrade?
I'm not entirely sure.
You heard it here first, folks.
Because like most of the time I've got this like in plantigrade. Like most of the time I have my model in plantigrade, but it does have a digigrade option.
You have it in plantigrade because
sometimes
the digigrade doesn't work with the tux.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work with the suit pants. I could take the pants off, but then we'd have a lot more awkward situations going on.
You know what? That's fair. That's the same reason I don't use digigrade with mine, is because the socks that were made for it don't work with the digigrade.
I mean, they kinda do. Kinda.
But there's too much clipping.
Yeah. Yeah, really go and adjust a crap ton to get it to fit right.
No, that's fair.
Speaking of which, I had to do a lot of adjusting on all the fern stuff to get it to hide under this suit.
I'm sure that the audience is begging to know now because you're tiny, you're adorable. Are you a content creator of any kind?
Nope, I don't make jack.
Have you ever thought
I do
about
not
it?
have the skills to make any. I've thought about it. I have tried my hand a couple of times at making things. However, unless I have a visual reference I can constantly be looking at, I cannot draw properly. It turns out looking like shit. I've tried writing, and it's like, okay, this pacing makes me want to.
What about streaming on
I
YouTube?
I do not have the self confidence. I'm normally a mute.
So what you're saying is that I need to make you do it.
Good luck.
Listen, you would do fantastic, and I know you would.
Eh,
Don't give me that. So,
I mean, I did try to voice act for a while when I was like maybe 5 years ago. I did some podcast intros, I guess, but outside of that, never really took off. I can still do the voices though.
I need to get with you after the interview. Question I want to know: do people outside of the fandom, like friends, family, that don't have anything to do with the furry fandom, do they know you're a furry?
Outside of the fandom, I have my brother and my sister who know, and outside of that, maybe a handful of friends who aren't, but most of my friends are in the fandom.
Same.
So
We've
I can
got
solidly count two and maybe others.
understandable. I've got a lot of people outside of the fandom that know that I'm a furry. We've got one more
Mm-hmm.
question.
Cool.
Do you have any advice for people who are just coming into the fandom or those who are thinking about joining the fandom? Any words of encouragement or advice?
Feel free to take your time. There is absolutely no rush. Like I said earlier, it took me well over a decade to figure out what I want my persona to be. If you're just coming in, don't try to just pop out something. Take your time, think about it. And if you eventually decide, I'm actually don't want to be part of this, that's just fine too. Nobody's going to judge you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Everyone, this has been Captain Fish. Thank you so much for coming on to let me interview you. I hope you all have a lovely, fantastic rest of your day. And remember, hydrate, medicate, and get some rest. Do it. I know you ain't rested. Until next time. Bye bye.
Bye.